Hi Tina.
Hi, Teresa.
Thank you so much for agreeing to chat.
It's a pleasure.
Could you just tell me a bit about yourself growing up?
Yeah. Which
From when you were young,
Okay.
you were born in Australia. Tell me a bit about your
Okay.
background.
Yeah. So I was born in Hong Kong.
Oh,
Yeah. So my mum,
oh,
she's from Burma, and my dad's from China, and they met in Hong Kong. So then they stayed and lived there, and that's where I was born. And I came to Australia when I was about 3, turning 4. And I've been here since, hence the Aussie accent.
and are your parents, your family religious?
Not really. My dad, not so much, but my mum is. So my mum's Buddhist. And so growing up, I used to go to the temple with my mum, and we would go there to pray for good fortune, for good health, for the family, for each other, for ourselves. I would say probably whereas I grew older, maybe in year 12, I started to become more interested in the teachings of the Buddha as opposed to just going to the temple for prayers and for chanting. So then when I went to UNSW, I became involved with UniBuds, and I started going to their events and joining in their activities, and that's where I really learnt a lot of the different traditions and not just the Mahayana tradition that I was initially exposed to. And yeah, the journey's kind of continued since then.
Wow. And how did you get yourself involved in the Buddhist society in your university?
UNSW,
Yeah.
UniBuds. Yeah, so I think how I first came across them was when I was still in high school, and I joined their annual event called Bodhi Night. And I remember going to that show and watching it, and it seemed really interesting. When I started uni, I was doing my arts degree, and I was trying to get good marks so I could get into law. And the first 3 years, I actually didn't join UniBuds. It was really towards the end of my arts degree, going into my law degree, that I became more active in UniBuds. And yeah, since then I joined their events. I helped organise some of their events. I was on the committee, and even after I graduated, I still went back and continued to support them as much as I could.
And when you first came across, you were saying in about year 12, the teachings, you got more interested in the teachings.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that and how that developed?
Yeah, I remember going to Nantian Temple in Wollongong, and I went there with my mum, and my mum was there doing the usual rites that she does when she goes to Nantian. And they used to have little booklets of teachings from Master Xing Yun, so I came across a few. And I just really read through it, and it really touched my heart, especially what he was saying about using Buddhism in our daily life, using Buddhism to help the world. And there's an explanation about what the world is like at the moment and how we can make it a better place. And being a very idealistic child, I thought, yes, I'm going to go and help save the world and make big changes in our world. So it really connected with me at that point. And I remember also as a high school student, I had some teachers that I really liked, like my English teacher, and I actually gave them the free Buddhist books, not realizing maybe it wouldn't have been that appropriate. But to me, I just was like, wow, this is great stuff. I want to share it with everyone. So that, I think, is what really got me interested in the Buddhist teachings, as opposed to just doing mainly the rituals and rites.
Was there a particular part or teaching that struck you most, that really opened maybe an aha moment, or was it more overall?
I didn't know it back then, but I think what I was reading about was in terms of the bodhisattva, and how it is that we could really bring up our great compassion for the world and use that as a way in our day-to-day to make a difference for ourselves, but also importantly for other people too. So Guan Yin has always been my pseudo mum growing up, and also it clicked with me in that sense too. So using our life as a way to better this world, rather than just using our life as a way to better ourselves and in a selfish way. So it was using whatever resources we can to help our society. So yeah, so that really connected with me. And then I was also very interested in philosophy generally. So then learning more about the philosophical aspects of Buddhism was very interesting for me. And as I learned more about the Four Noble Truths, dependent origination, I was hooked. That was it. Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about Guan Yin and the Bodhisattva?
Yeah. So Guan Yin, when I was younger, Mum, she would pray to Guan Yin and I would pray to Guan Yin. And Mum actually adopted me out to Guan Yin at some stage. And this was because my mum, there was a fortune teller who said that I was going to have a serious accident that year. She said that one or two of her children was going to have a serious accident this year. And so from my mum, she thought that the best way to save me was to adopt me out to Guan Yin. So yeah, I got adopted to Guan Yin. And at the time, I was a bit confused. I'm like, what, you don't want me anymore? But it was because it was a way around that. So, but that was one part of it. Another part of it was growing up. I learned a lot about Guan Yin and what kind of the stories about her. But importantly, it was about that theme of just sacrificing yourself so that you could help other people. And so for her, there was all these stories about how she would, with great compassion, sacrifice herself, sacrifice her life even, so that she can help others. And then it was the stories about her having 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes and 1,000 ears, so she can hear the cries of the world, she can help everyone, and be that savior. So yeah, that really inspired me, because even as a little child, I thought, well, there's only little me, but if I could do something with others, then maybe we could make a difference for this world and alleviate people from suffering. So I really connected with that. And for Guan Yin, there were many times when I would have chats with her, right? So as a young child, if I'm feeling down, feeling stressed or worried about something, I would just call on Guan Yin and have a good chat to her, and I feel much better. So she's been with me all the way through.
So you still do that now?
Yeah, from time to time, yeah. So I have Guan Yin in my house, and it's a good reminder for me as well in terms of what it is that I want to connect with. So I want to connect with that higher sense of great compassion, that sense of great love for all. Yeah.
And I can see that you've actually put it into action through the development of Metta Centre. Can you tell me a bit more of how you started that and why you started it?
Okay, yeah, of course. So Metta Centre was an experiment, as with lots of things in my life, and how it came about was to meet a particular need. So I've been helping in the Buddhist community for some time, and I often get people saying that they need a place for teaching. They may have a teacher who's coming from overseas, or even a local teacher, and they don't have an appropriate place where they could share the Buddhist teachings. Very often they have to book a hall, which may not be as appropriate as a venue, and they have to pay for it, and because they have to pay for it, they may have to charge. And for me, I think the Buddhist teachings is really invaluable, and it should be given freely, so anyone can access the Buddhist teachings, not necessarily only if they can afford it or if they have to choose between, well, is it worth going or not. So I made an aspiration that if one day I had the opportunity, I would like to provide a resource for teachers to be able to give teachings freely so that the public can benefit from it. And with MetaLegal, so that's another experiment, which was my Buddhist law firm, when it became really busy, I needed a space, I needed an office. So I found a location where there is an office space, and then next to it there is a hall. Now at the time I was thinking of renting that out so that I can pay for the overheads of the office, but when I got the space I realized, hey, maybe I could offer this space to the Triple Gems. I could offer this to the Buddha, to the sharing of the Dhamma, and also to support the Sangha and whoever wanted to use that space to teach. And also because the location is in Bankstown, which is Sydney's southwest, there's not really that kind of open centre where it's open to all traditions. Anyone can come off the street to come and learn Buddhism. And it's not as daunting for some people who may not know too much about Buddhism. Some people may not go to a Buddhist temple because they don't know if they're allowed to or what language or tradition it may be. So this may be an easy way in for them to access Buddhism. And then from there, if they're interested, then they could go and learn the different traditions and go to the temples. So yeah, so it was an experiment as a space to offer the teachings to the community. Initially, I wasn't thinking about organising events. It was purely just a space for people to use. Over time, because it's an experiment, we just had so much support and interest, and it just really made itself the way that it is. So we were able to get teachers from all around the world interested to give teachings in Sydney. So I was like, okay, well, Metta Centre's a space. And then from there, we just built on that. And we have organised retreats, we've organised public events, weekly talks, we've gone online, we're also doing stuff in person if it wasn't because of COVID. And we've built a community from it. So it's been a wonderful journey, beyond what I expected.
Starting from one aspiration.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about your own spiritual journey, as in how you started practicing? Did you start some meditation, and how has that grown and developed over time?
Yeah, no, I didn't like meditation, to be honest, when I first started. I had a monkey mind. I couldn't sit still. I was a thinker, so I was more interested in the philosophy of Buddhism. I was really interested in insight meditation because I thought that meant I just sat and thought about Buddhism rather than actually practicing. So no, I really came into Buddhism faith-based with my mum through Mahayana tradition. And then from there, more about learning the teachings and in a more intellectual kind of way. And then from there, applying that in my day-to-day life, especially when there was suffering, and using that as a way to understand why I was the way that I am, why I'm suffering, and then realizing, wow, this is so practical, actually. And then later on, as I continued with the practice, then I started doing more meditation. And I went on my first meditation retreat, and like full silent retreat. And then from there, I built on and continued on. So no, I didn't actually start with meditation. I started with other, for me, more exciting aspects. Organising events, learning about the philosophy, talking about it. And then, and this is really crucial and very important to the development, which is putting into practice and making it real rather than just words on the page.
And when was your first meditation retreat?
That would be about 2010, 2011. And I have to thank my husband Zen for that, actually. So we used to joke because he was more of a meditator. I was more of a social Buddhist event organizer. So more like service, and he was more into the practice. So we would joke because I would be giving talks and I would get him to start giving some talks and coming to events. And so he also taught me how to become more interested in meditation. So, but he had already gone on meditation retreats. So he encouraged me to go on my first 10-day Vipassana retreat. I'm like, 10 days, no talking? I'm going to be able to handle that, me not talking? And the answer is yes, I could. And in fact, after 10 days, I didn't even feel like talking. I just felt like continuing. So from then, that was a really good way for me to learn about myself and about my meditation practice and learning different techniques after that.
Was that a Goenka retreat?
Yes, it was. Yeah. So that I was very grateful for that, because prior to it, I did do some meditation in the Thai forest tradition and in Mahayana. But one good thing I felt that came from particularly the Burmese tradition is, for me anyway, with my experience, their instructions was so valuable, and it really just allowed me to develop my basics. So every time I go on a retreat, I like to come with a beginner's mind, learning whatever it is that they have to teach, and it was just so useful for me to build a very solid foundation for my meditation practice.
And did you keep up the meditation and retreat?
Yes, thankfully. Phew. I'm glad I did, because it's just changed my life. Yeah, meditation has changed my life. And it's not just meditation, it's the whole path, isn't it? It's the 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. So meditation is a key aspect of it, but we also use that in conjunction with the others. So yeah, so since the 10-day Goenka retreat, I have done other retreats following that. The longest one was the 30 days in Burma. And of course, after every retreat, so after 10 days, it's like, oh, 10 days isn't enough, I need longer. After 2 weeks, like, oh, 2 weeks is enough, we need longer. Even after 30 days, at 30 days, it's like, wow, my mind is just at a stage where it's able to do some cool stuff, and then now I'm gone again. So yeah, so I do hope, and I aspire one day to do a much longer retreat.
Can you share with us how it has changed your life? Not just meditation, but you were saying the other aspects of Buddhism?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be the person that I am if it wasn't because of Buddhism. If it wasn't because of the Dharma practice in all aspects, I don't know what I would be like. Definitely not this happy. And so I'm very, very grateful for the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And that's why I dedicate my life as much as I can to share this with others so others can benefit as well.
Because you were talking about suffering and how it's been, if you apply it to those difficulties, are you comfortable sharing an example from your life?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just can't think of how many. We have suffering on all levels, right? So sometimes we think about suffering where like someone has died or like really big kind of suffering. But even in our day to day, right? Like our life is pretty good here in Australia. But if we really look at it, actually there is more and more subtle suffering. And that's part of the path. That's part of the Noble Eightfold Path, to see that and to see that agitation and to see the agitation that arises from craving, from aversion, from delusion in our day to day. So that's how in our practice, the more that we understand this, the more that we can understand craving, let go of that craving, and then from there we will become more contented and more happy with our life. So the suffering that arises could be that kind of day-to-day suffering. The big kind of suffering that has happened in my life, I guess I could use as an example when I first started. Oh, actually no, maybe I'll use the example of how MetaLegal came about. So I was a junior lawyer at the time, working for another law firm, typical law firm, but I just was really unhappy. I was looking around at the people around me, other lawyers who have made it in the legal industry, who for them, they've climbed the ladder, they've done everything that they can, they're very successful worldly, but they're so unhappy. And then I thought, well, do I really want to do that with my life? Do I really want to put so much effort into that and still be unhappy? So the suffering that came for me was me going through what I now call my quarter life crisis. So my quarter life crisis, where I was thinking, what do I want to do with my life? Is this really it? Is this all that my life is, and all that I've achieved at the end is just looking back at how many clients I've had, or how many cases I've won, or how much money I've made? That's just really sad. And I reflected on, even if I was the best lawyer in the world, I wouldn't necessarily be happy. So I thought, well, what is it that makes me happy? And it was my Dharma practice. I realized that all the times when I've genuinely been happy and contented was a connection with the Dhamma. So for example, that 30-day retreat, years after I did that retreat, I still felt the same happiness and peace that I had from that particular retreat. It was incredible, right? I mean, what in our worldly kind of happiness offers that kind of happiness for years to come, just by the thought of that experience? So yeah, I realized actually what's most important for me is my Dharma practice. And the suffering that came from that confusion and what I'm doing with my life and all that questioning, the Dhamma was the answer to that. And from there I realized, well, maybe what I need to do is change what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So then my other experiment is MetaLegal, starting off a law firm based on Buddhist principles and how it's going to work. I remember at the time I had a lot of doubts and I was hesitating. I met good people like you, Teresa. I just looked up anyone who was Buddhist and anyone who happened to be a lawyer and just said, I want to talk to you, please. And that's how we met, Teresa. Just, hi. And at the time, I had good people like yourself who was really supportive of that. I did have other Buddhists who were like, well, if it was going to happen, it would have happened. So not everyone thought that it would happen. Even myself, I had a lot of doubts. But I'm lucky that things have gone the way that it has, and I really hope this would be a way to inspire other people in other professions to firstly see that they can bring the Dhamma into the work that they do with right livelihood, but secondly to turn our suffering and use this as a way for us to change or for us to deeply understand the Dhamma.
You mentioned about the 30-day retreat and how you reflect on it even now, and it gives you happiness.
Yeah.
Did you see any changes in your life after that retreat, or even after any of the retreats that you've done?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I think these retreats are very important for us to do. And for myself, every single retreat, it has made a profound change on my life and my personality. Yeah. So that's why that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't be the person that I am now if it wasn't because of my Dhamma practice. And I'm sure as I continue to practice that this person here will continue to change. And that's the way I think that we can see whether or not we're practicing in the right way. I think that if we practice in the right way, our life should be lighter. It should be more happy. It should be more joyful, more calmer, more peaceful, less agitation, less conflict. I mean, the Buddha specifically talked about that. I mean, otherwise, why would we continue to practice if we're just going to continue to be more angry and upset and agitated, etc.? And it's all on us. It's all on us. We can't really blame other people. It's my own defilements that I need to look at. I take responsibility for that, and I find through the practice a way to transform those defilements. Yeah.
And can you tell me about how you, I think you were basically the one who established Mettarama. Can you tell me about that story?
Yeah, so again, another experiment. Bonhom Sunim came to me and she said that she needed a place to stay, and it was pretty urgent. She had some changes in her circumstances. And prior to my discussion with her, other people had there was a lot of talk about how nuns, Buddhist female monastics, they don't get the same support compared to monks. And as a laywoman, I understand that, but I don't deeply understand because I'm obviously not in that situation. And I felt I really wanted to help because having accommodation is just so key. It's so fundamental. And not knowing where you're living and when you may be kicked out of somewhere, that's a lot of uncertainty, very unsettling. And I felt that surely that would be a basic thing that we should be able to support our monastics, okay? And if we can do that, and I've been supporting temples where there's monks who are living there, why can't we do the same for temples with nuns? To me, there is no difference. So it was a no-brainer. It was like, yes, of course, okay. At the time, I had an opportunity that came up and I said, well, there is this place. Maybe we can use this as the beginning of this monastery or this nun's residence. And then we use this to see where it takes us. Because that's kind of what I do with my experiments. So it's a bit like Metta Center, it's a bit like MetaLegal. If there is a need that arises, then let's put something in place and we'll just do whatever we can and then see how it evolves. And so far it's kind of worked for the others, and I thought this would work also with this idea too. So we start off with this place and then we get enough support, and then from there we may choose another location if it's much bigger, if there's more of a need or in a different location, we can do that. So that was kind of like the starting idea. And so it started to meet that need, and it assisted Sunim to have a place to stay. And then from there, we also had other visiting monastics as well as also female practitioners who needed a place to stay from time to time. They had a place that they could go to. So So then the place was called Mettarama at the time, and we were able to, for example, help the Santee nuns when there was the bushfires that came to Santee. They needed a place to stay, so they came to Mettarama. Aya Severa and I, we've known each other for a long time, and she was staying in Newbury, and she contacted me and said that she was interested to come to Sydney, and I told her about Mettarama. She was very enthusiastic. I was like, great, this is great. And so she came over, and then we did some changes. So for example, now it's no longer called Mettarama, it's called Mettarama. And also Sunim has moved as well. So Aya Severa is now the main nun who's staying here. And we've now got a working group with some fantastic volunteers and people who are so skilled and lovely to work with. So it's just been a beautiful journey to where it is, and I just can't wait to see what will happen.
How did you first meet Aya Severa? You said you've known her for a long time.
I met Aya, I hope she doesn't mind me telling this, I'm sure she's okay. So she followed Bante Jason when he was walking in Australia. So some of the walks in Sydney, she accompanied him. So when he came to Metta Centre to give a tour, she was there with him. So at the time when I met her, ages ago, she was wearing yellow robes as opposed to the robes that she's in now. So that's actually how I met her, way back. Yes. And then after that, so we connected, and she at some stage went to, she went to different places, but she eventually went to Brisbane. She contacted me in Brisbane, and they were organising some event. It was to do with social justice, and she thought of me. So she invited me to come over to Brisbane to get to know more about the Buddhist scene over there, and also to be the keynote speaker for this event. So I went over there, and it was lovely. It was lovely spending time with her and with the community there, and I got to know the people there, particularly the Buddhist Society at their university. Yeah, and then she went to Newbury, and then she also invited me to Newbury. So yes, it's been wonderful working with her. We get on really well because I know her style, she knows my style. We're pretty courageous in what we do, in the sense that we just kind of do it and see what happens. So we're both doers, and yeah, I'm really glad to have her at Mettarama.
And do you have particular aspirations for Mettarama?
I just hope it will do well. Like all the other projects, I don't know where it will go, and sometimes I find that where it goes is actually beyond my imagination. Like, it's actually better than what I had expected and planned. So I'm just very happy where it is, and I feel like it's on the right trajectory, and I just hope it continues to grow. And I really hope that Mettarama becomes a place where it could support nuns, bhikkhunis, as well as female practitioners, but I also hope that it would inspire other people to do the same. So I hope that it will inspire other people to realize that nuns are very important to the Buddhist community. We have a fourfold Sangha, it's not a threefold Sangha. And I really hope that this will be a way to remind people of this, and also to inspire more people maybe to take that path of ordination and realize that there is support for them out there.
Have you ever considered taking that path?
Oh yes. When I was much younger, I wanted to, and I told my mum. She thought I was kidding. So yeah, I've always had those kind of aspirations, and I think back then it was because I genuinely felt that the Buddha's teachings was the way to help people. I thought about the different professions in the world and how it can help people, but it can only help people on a limited basis. Even as a lawyer, I can only help people with their legal issues. I mean, I can somehow help them with some other aspects, but not really. I once wanted to be a doctor, but we can only help people really with their physical health, maybe with their mental health. But really, we're talking about, when we talk about the Dhamma, we're not talking about just helping them in this lifetime, but hopefully for many lifetimes to come. So I used to think that I really wanted to devote my life to that, and I thought I needed to be a nun to do that. So that's where it came from.
And how did that change?
Not sure actually. I think just over time I continue to just do whatever I can with the life that I have and the resources that I have, and I realise that at this point in time in my life, that as a laywoman, that there are things that I can do now to help the Buddhist community. So I feel like I am playing a role, that I'm fulfilling my duty at this point in time as a laywoman. So I continue to do that.
And so the nun is just more on the back burner rather than out of the picture altogether. Maybe not ask.
Well, I don't want to say something and then, whatever happens. Yeah, because I think also one thing that my Dharma practice has taught me is to live a life lightly, and to be more fluid and more adaptable. I still do a lot of planning, but sometimes it's just nice to leave it open, because you just don't know how life will surprise us. So just leaving it open and see what happens. As I say, right now, at this point in time, I feel that being a laywoman is conducive to my current practice, where I'm at, and I am married, and so the life that I do have at the moment, and also the part that I'm playing in the community. So I play that part, and I hope that it will help other people. Later on, things may change, things may not change, I don't know, so leave it and let be.
So as you know, the Buddha said that Kali and the Mittas, our spiritual friends, are the path, really, the Buddhist path. Is there any persons that have played a really significant role on the spiritual journey for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, many people. Countless. And the thing is, it's not just people who are supportive. Of course they are, for sure. But even people who aren't. Like, I learned so much from that experience. And some of those people who have pushed my buttons, I am so grateful for, because if it wasn't because of them, then I wouldn't be where I am now, and I wouldn't have made the changes that I have made. So I'm very grateful. And I do feel that people come for reasons, and they come for a lesson that I need to learn. And if I don't learn that lesson, they will keep coming in different forms. So whether people come in that supportive role, or they come because they need to push my buttons so that I can turn and change, I am forever grateful. But yes, for sure, I'm definitely very grateful for the people who have been supportive. And if it wasn't because of them, I wouldn't be able to do what I am doing now. My family they're so important, lovely people. Of course, my darling husband. I'm very grateful to have the life that I have with him, and have the relationship that we have, and the understanding that we have. We don't have any conflict, so that's a big thing. Like, my life as a lawyer already is very stressful. At least when I come back, I don't have that. So I'm grateful for the life that we have together. I'm also grateful, I spoke about my family, but I'm particularly grateful for my parents. My mum and dad have taught me so much and given so much to me as well, and continue to give so much to me. My mum has been a big supporter of everything that I do, including Metta Centre, including Mettarama, and so I'm very grateful and indebted to her as well. I can go on. There's just so many people. Of course, good friends like yourself, Teresa. I've also got so grateful for the monastics who I've been able to come across, and the teachings that I've been able to get from them. So yeah, and Metta Centre, the other amazing thing is, it just opens the doors for the people that we get to meet. People that I would never have thought of meeting would just come our way, because we're organising events and we get to know them on a deeper level, rather than just listening to their talk. And that's really key. Sometimes it's that kind of exchange that we have with them, or sometimes when we're hosting them at our house in the House of Metta, that we get to have those one-on-one time with them and learn so much from them in the life that they live. So yeah, eternally grateful for all of the spiritual friends that we have.
Is there anything that I've missed that you would like to share on a final note?
I think you've covered everything. You're a very good interviewer. So thank you. I guess maybe just if anyone is interested to help with Mettarama, then please come along and join. I think that that's really important because this is the start of a project, and who knows who's going to be watching this and when they're going to be watching this, but I'm sure there are lots of Buddhist projects happening, and at this point in time, bhikkhunis do need our support. And I think it's a topic that people may or may not want to discuss about, but we need to talk about it. And we need to support this project, and we need to support this cause. And it's so important. It doesn't matter what gender, doesn't matter which tradition, which nationality. If we believe in Buddhism being something that can help others and that we deeply believe should continue for generations to come, then we're going to need bhikkhunis. We're going to need the whole fourfold Sangha. And so if you would like to support Buddhism, please support the bhikkhunis. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Tina.